Hi, welcome to Jackie's Reviews. I'm going to do a book review today, and let me start out with apologizing in advance. Most of the names I'm going to say I am probably mispronouncing or saying wrong. I'm going to talk about the book called Thunderclaw, which is done by Penelope Fletcher. This is an alien romance, okay? So if you're not into that, you might want to pass this one up. So some of the possible trigger warnings right now. There is talk of one of the male characters in the past was raped repeatedly. There is talks about incest. There is a reverse harem where our female is actually in a relationship with two male aliens, okay? And they're all okay with it. Let's be clear. There is some violence, but not to a point where they describe something like in a very gruesome way, shall I say? So I don't really think that is a big trigger warning. There is, like I said, some violence, but not in a gory kind of sense. More just like battles and fights. All right. So our main female character's name is Sin, I think is how you say it. It's like S-I-N-E. She lives over in Europe, and she has a darling little daughter. She still lives really close and is really close to her family, like her dad and her brothers. And one day, she is being stalked and hunted down by aliens that come to Earth. And not just like any normal aliens. Like, this is the second book in a series of 3 so far. The first book is called Venomous, and some of those characters do show up in this second book. Now, in this book, the aliens don't look like giant lizard-like people or snake-like people, however, you want to imagine venomous. These ones are like giant cats or lions, okay? And they are stalking or being like predatory. They're tracking Sin to claim her as their mate or his mate. And the person who's stalking or tracking her is a king. And his name is Beowin, possibly? Beowin? I don't know. So that's his name. The king is King Beowin. And with him is his commander, Eric. And that's probably not how you say it, but that's how I say it when I read it. So I'm saying Eric. So Beowin, King Beowin, and his high commander, Eric, are on the prowl. And they're hunting her down, and they capture her, and because they capture her, he's like, I'm gonna marry you. That's it. Basically, she's like, okay, but you have to bring my family with me. And he's like, yes, I will do that. And her family is super cool about being taken by these giant alien cats onto their spaceship and going away, right? Which is whatever. I've read plenty of alien romances, and some of them are weirder than this, so I was like, all right, let's go with it. So they're all on their way to his planet, to King Beowin's planet. Now, Sin isn't super into the king. She has feelings, but she doesn't have feelings. She's very reserved, and he is super open and honest about how he has a harem, right? Which in a sense is kind of okay, because in olden times a lot of kings had harems or concubines, all right, to spread their seed far and wide. I get it, all right. It's there's just different situations on different planets. This is fake, this is an alien romance, all right. She's not happy about that though, and I don't blame her. She, for her, she's like, this is not cool. I don't want you to be with a bunch of other women, and me at the same time. That's not how I was raised. That's not really a part of our culture. I don't like that. What happens on their way to his home world, they end up crashing on another alien planet. Now, Sin is stuck with the king, while Eric, I think is his name, is stuck with her daughter, okay? Now, because of this slight situation, because Eric keeps the daughter alive the whole time they're on this alien planet, And yes, Sin does kind of connect with the king a little bit more. Like, you know, he keeps her safe and alive until they get back, and they meet like a big blue alien who comes in the third book in the series. Like, he gets his own book, right? But because of this little dynamic that happens, Sin ends up being super attracted to Eric, which is the High Commander, which is the king's like second in command, which they already have like this kind of weird relationship, right? Like, I don't know if you want to call it weird, but like they're aliens, and they did sexual stuff with each other, but then the king was like, oh, that wasn't a big deal, and it hurt Eric's feelings because Eric actually has a lot of love for the king and like wants to be with him. So when the king kind of was just like, oh, whatever, it hurt Eric's feelings. You know what I mean? So there's like a weird tension that's going on there that's not really has been resolved or talked about. So because Eric takes care of Sin's daughter, Sin is like attracted to him because he has like that fatherly instincts, and he did something that she couldn't do at the time because they were separated. So they end up hooking up, Sin and Eric, right? Which is whatever. Like, realistically, like the king shouldn't say crap because he has like a harem and concubines and whatever, but he's still mad that Eric slept with Sin and they were together before the king could have Sin, because like that's his wife. So when they get back on like their home world, there's a fight and a battle between them, and it's a very interesting story, and I could go on for literally like a long time. Like I could talk for a very extended period of time on this book, not only because there's a lot in it, but because it's also a long book. All right, now the rest of the story, there is a lot that goes on in this story. There's so many different dynamics that go on. And in the beginning of the story, I would say the female character isn't super strong. But as time goes by and as the story progresses, she becomes a stronger person. So there is character development, which is great. There's also not really betrayal, but there is like trickery and a thriller. And, you know, one of the concubines is trying to like ruin their lives or ruin the girl's life and just like be a crappy person. So there is some drama in there, and there is other stuff that is happening. I do think that this book isn't as good as the first one, as Venomous. Venomous like holds a real special place in my heart. However, Venomous is probably within the top 5 alien romance books I would recommend to anyone. I very much think it is underrated. The other thing is, when I went through and I read this book, it was like right when it came out, okay? Like right when it was released on Kindle. So when I read it, there were some errors in grammar. At this point, it's been released for a couple years now, so it probably has been updated and fixed because a lot of people were complaining to the author of those things. Now, it is still a good book. I would highly recommend people reading it. There are some tough parts to read, but I would definitely recommend reading Venomous first. Venomous is like definitely a really good book. For the rest of the story, you get to see how their relationship goes together, not just for Sin and the king, but Eric is also included in that, which I think is nice, is that they all come together and kind of just make it like they're all husbands and wives, if that makes sense. Like, to her, they're both her husband, and the king starts referring to Eric as his husband, right? So it does get to the point where they are okay and they're open with their sexuality. Like, the king opens up about, you know, being bisexual, and so does Eric, and that's okay, right? Like, they get to that point where it's not a big deal anymore. So I think that's really cool that the author is throwing that in there as well, because most alien romances are between like a female and male. So the fact that she is incorporating the fact that she's incorporating, you know, a male and a male, that it's okay that, you know, they're bi and that they're with each other and with her, like, I think that's kind of nifty. It adds a different twist to the alien romance that's a little different from a lot of the other ones I have read. If you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day.